Hi everybody, my name is AP Andrews. I'm the literary manager of the Seven Devils Playwrights Conference, and we are so excited to be working with you, the students of McCall Donnelly High School, again this year for what will be our 20th anniversary of the Seven Devils Playwrights Conference coming to McCall, Idaho. Now, believe me, we thought the circumstances would be much different. We were so excited to come to McCall, one of the most beautiful places on earth, for our 20th year. But circumstances being what they are, we're still so excited to work with you, and we have a lot of really cool things lined up. So first of all, I wanted to give you just a quick rundown of what the process is going to be working with us this year. And then after that, I'm going to give a quick digital tutorial on some of the building blocks of what it's going to take for you to write your first scene. So first of all, a rundown of where we're at. What's going to happen is this Wednesday and next Wednesday, I'm going to be giving a brief tutorial on a couple of fundamentals of playwriting. You'll take that and use it and think about it as you continue to develop your own work. Each Saturday night at midnight, you're going to send us your work, whatever you have at whatever stage it is. It doesn't have to be finished, doesn't have to have a beginning, middle, and end, really, wherever it's at. Sunday, we're going to pair you with mentors who are going to read through your work on Sunday throughout the day, and then they're going to give you a call on Monday. In some way, shape, or form, we're still working on exactly how we're going to set that up, but some of the most professional dramaturgs, writers, actors, really, really smart theatrical minds, company members who've been with us for a very long time. They've been to McCall before, they've worked with students before, and they're so excited to get the chance to work with you again as you develop your craft, as you develop your next scene. So we're going to do that twice as well. This week and next week, you'll get 2 chances to talk to your mentor. And then after that, I'll let you speak with Audrey a little bit about what the process is going to be in terms of sharing your work with each other. So without further ado, that's the rundown of what we're doing, and this is the first playwriting lesson, the building blocks of playwriting. Okay, let's get started. First things first, let's talk about conflict. When we talk about writing plays, conflict is one of the first things that people talk about, the first things that come to mind. But what are we really talking about? There's several different kinds, and all of them make for really exciting plays. But it's important to know what kind of conflict that your play is working with, right? So a lot of people think, when they first think of the word conflict, they think that it means when 2 people are fighting about something and they have opposing viewpoints. So each of the people involved want completely different things, and they're standing in each other's way. Maybe they fight with swords or with lightsabers. Maybe they fight with words, and there's a big crying, screaming match. I'm sure you've seen those movies too. That's one kind of conflict. So Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy, these are examples of that kind of conflict. Butting head to head, a protagonist and an antagonist. Think about if the scene that you're working on fits into this category. That's a great place to start. Another type of conflict that I want to talk about, though, arises when 2 characters want the same thing or similar things, but they disagree on how to go about it. In these instances, they may not use swords and lightsabers, they may not be screaming, but they're still opposing one another. And they still do things to make sure that their view, their way of doing things, wins in the end. An example of this, again, from Star Wars, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. They both want good to win in the end. They just have very, very different methods about how they think that should happen. Think of almost any famous friendship in TV or film. Usually it's 2 characters who care deeply about each other, but they aren't able to show it in the right ways. They both want everyone to be happy, but they mess up when they try to make that happen. So even Winnie the Pooh, okay? He's a bit adventurous for Piglet's tastes. Hermione would love it if Harry thought a little bit more before he acted. Think about that kind of conflict. Does the scene you're working on fall more into that category, where 2 people believe in each other and want things to be right in the end, but they just have different ways of getting there? Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the first with a really clear protagonist and an antagonist. Maybe it's somewhere in between. But start to think about conflict and how it functions in your play. The first three building blocks that we're going to be talking about today all lead toward conflict. Ultimately, all plays have these things functioning in them somehow, and it's important to think about how they function in your play, whether it's a play that you haven't written yet, or it's a play that you're already working on, but things can be a little bit sharper. These first three building blocks that we'll be talking about are wants, stakes, and tactics. Again, all of these things ultimately lead to conflict. They're just different ways of thinking about the same thing, different ways of getting started. If you've already started working on your play, these are things to think about that will help to sharpen it. If you haven't started yet, these are some different ways to get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is wants. Now, I'm sure you've heard a lot of writers talk about what a character wants as being the most important thing when writing a character, and it's kind of true. But what I want you to do now is to think about it for the project that you're writing on. For each of the characters in the story, take a moment to think about what the character wants in the moment. And then take a moment to think about what the character wants, with a capital W, in their life. We all have needs, things that we need in the moment and things that we need more than anything else in the world, in our wildest dreams, the things that would make us most happy. For these purposes today, we're going to talk about big wants and little wants. First, little wants. Little want refers to what the character wants in this scene in particular, in this moment. For instance, Harry Potter wants his broom to fly. That might be a little W want. Harry wants to master his wizardry so he can help the world be a safe and peaceful place. That's a much bigger want and something he's not going to be able to accomplish in just one scene. But if he could just get his broom to fly, he's going to be one step closer. And that's, for the most part, the wants that we're going to be talking about today as you're working on your shorter scenes. But still, those little wants, they lead towards a bigger want. So it's going to be important for you to think about both. So try it right now, whether you've started your play or not. Think about, what does your character want in the short term? By the end of this scene, in the next 5 minutes, what do they need? Then think about what they need in the long term. It's okay if you don't know the answer to either of these questions right now, but oftentimes you'll have an idea of one which will lead to the other. For instance, if you know that Harry wants his broom to fly, we might be able to parse together that ultimately in his life he wants that skill in order to lead to a much, much bigger want. And keep in mind, they might not know that they want these things. They might pretend like they don't. Think about it from your point of view, though, from the writer's point of view. Just take 2 minutes to journal about that. Now that you've had a chance to think about what the characters in your scene might want, I'd like you to think about the next building block of conflict, which is stakes. Another way of asking this question is, what might happen if the character doesn't get what they want? So, for instance, maybe Winnie the Pooh wants to get some honey from a beehive by knocking down the hive and slurping up the honey. Piglet would prefer if he asked the bees kindly for it. So what's at stake for Pooh? Well, if he doesn't have honey, it's not that he's just going to be hungry for the next 10 minutes until he finds honey somewhere else. He's going to go hungry. He's going to starve. This is what Pooh Bear thinks in his mind. The stakes are much higher for him. Piglet, what's at stake for him? If he doesn't convince Pooh to take a safer route, his friend might get hurt really badly. Piglet doesn't want to be alone. So think about what the stakes are for your characters. If they're trying to get what they want and they don't get it, what's going to happen? The higher the stakes, the more we cheer for them, the more we want them to succeed. Another example is Harry Potter. If Harry wants his broom to fly because he wants to go to lunch, that's one thing, okay? But if Harry Potter wants his broom to fly because he's being chased by a Dementor, what's at stake is Harry's life. That means he's going to try very hard to get it, and we, as the audience, are invested. So I want you to take a look again at what your characters want, both little w and big W. Think about what's at stake if the character doesn't get each of these things. Write these things down, and remember, What's the absolute worst that can happen? Make the stakes high and the story will be more investing. Now that we've talked a little bit about what your characters want and also what's at stake if they don't get those things, I want to talk just a little bit about what those characters do in order to get the things that they want. Another word for this is tactics. What tactics do they choose in order to get the things they want? How do they think they're going to be most successful the quickest? Every person has different tactics to get what they want. Maybe they yell and scream, maybe they flirt, maybe they trick people, maybe they lie, cheat, maybe they're noble and play by the rules and believe that good things come to those who wait. Maybe they use money and power to get what they want. Harry Potter might yell and scream at his broom to get it to fly, but if that doesn't work, he's gonna have to change tactics. He can install a propeller or learn how to skateboard. He's gonna get from A to B. He's just gonna change tactics. Pooh Bear might offer Piglet some honey in exchange for distracting the bees. Piglet might draw a diagram for Pooh of what exactly will happen if he makes the bees angry. These are both tactics to get the other character to do what they want in the way that they want them to do it. So take a moment to look at the wants for each of your characters if you have them already. Specifically though, the lowercase wants, the things that they just want in that scene. And then think about what they might do to get that thing. Maybe they want a candy bar or a kiss or just for their friend to say, "I'm sorry." Think about what they would do to get that. For both of your characters, brainstorm 3 or 4 different ways for them to get what they want. Okay, so now we're at the end of the lesson part of this lesson, and we're going to move on to a couple of exercises, a couple of concrete, quick things that you can do to get started on your play or to keep working. First, I want you to think about the wants that your characters have. If you're getting stuck and you're not quite sure how to implement that into your play, try having the characters just say what they want. It may seem silly, but it's a great way to start. If you get to a point in your script and you don't know what the character should say, have them say, "I want blank." It's a very simple tactic and one that almost always works to get a scene moving again. "What's going on, Harry?" "I want my broom to fly," he says. See? You're already on your way. Hermione has to decide now whether or not she's going to help. The conflict starts. They have different ways of getting what they want, different tactics of working with each other. Give it a shot. Just have one character say what they want. Don't worry about it being too simple or sounding dumb. You can change it later. This is just a place to start. The second thing you can do is try to have a character remind the other character of what's really at stake in this moment, what they have to lose. Again, this may seem like an overly simple tactic, but it's usually pretty effective. And again, you can always go back and make it less obvious later. Pooh Bear, if you don't think this through, you're going to end up getting stung, and then I'll be lonely. Then they can talk about that. To get Piglet on board, Pooh Bear's going to have to change his tactics in order to convince him. It's a great way, again, to get conflict started. And the final thing I would encourage you to do is to see what happens if you have a character working to get something and you make their tactics just a little bit more interesting and extreme. For instance, Pooh Bear might try to get the bees away by hitting the hive with a stick, and that's interesting. That'll be something we'd want to watch. But what happens if he decides instead to knock down the tree with dynamite, or to lure them out with a dance party with a popular country song? These may seem extreme to us and funny, but Pooh really wants this honey. If your character really, really, really wants something bad, have them do something a little more extreme to get it. I hope you found this very quick lesson helpful. If nothing else, I hope it gives you a way to talk about the different things that you're thinking about in your script when you talk with your mentors next week. For the time being, just write. Have fun. Think about what these characters want, how they're going to get it. Think about what the stakes are if they don't get what they want, and let the characters go. If you make it to the end, whatever the end is, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. That's what a mentor is there to help you with. Again, just a reminder, you're going to submit your script via Google Drive by Saturday night at midnight. Then, all day Sunday, your mentor will have a chance to take a look at this thing that you've sent them. Again, any stage it's in. Monday, you'll have set up a time, you'll have a chance to talk to them, ask them questions, they might ask you some questions, and they'll give you a couple prompts for you specifically to work on before our next time together next Wednesday. Again, I hope this has been helpful. I so wish that I could be there working with each and every one of you. But for the time being, I'm signing off, and I'll see you next week.